6 months into real life after I just graduated with my master's. I graduated in September, so now we're in March and it's been 6 months, and I'm documenting my job search phase, the steps that I took and all the emotions, how they ran wild. And this is like part 2. So if you haven't watched the part 1, it's in the previous video where I talked about the general setting up, preparing myself for the job search. And in this particular video, I'm going to be talking about CVs, the structure that I used for my CVs. I'll talk about the cover letters. I'll talk about the tools that I use to prepare for interviews, as well as to write my CV. And then I'll talk about the interview process, the rejections, and how I dealt with it. So if you're new to the channel and if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you for choosing to watch this video. And returning subscribers, I salute you. Thank you so much for the continued support. My name is Lina Kabanya, and I call this channel simply Lina because I share my life experiences, my journey as I am simply. So let's get to the very first point, that is your CV, crafting your CV so that it is easily trackable. You know, these days they're using AI and all. So let's get to the first one. Okay, so when you're working on your CV, of course you're going to have like the first CV that you make, and you realize that okay, maybe it's not getting me interviews, and then so after you do more research and you keep crafting your CV so that it gets better and better. So this is what I did. I started making my CV in Word document, and like I just tweaked the old CV that I had, but then I realized that I wasn't attracting a lot of interviews. So then I changed, and I started using the one that is made in Canva, and this is the one that I'm going to be sharing with you. I'm just going to give you exactly the CV that I then used that got me 7 interviews and 2 up to the final stages of those, and yeah, 1 was successful. So yeah, so when you're crafting your CV, of course, for every job, and this is like the most tiring thing, you have to tailor make it for that particular job, because you have to go through the job requirements and make sure that you pick the key words for the job. So for example, you can be applying for sustainability officer job, fine. Because I applied for this job at company X, it doesn't mean I can use the same CV at company Z, even if they're still looking for a sustainability officer. Because remember, these are different companies, and sometimes how they view a sustainability officer is different. The role that they think you play and exactly what they want you to be doing is going to be different. So what I tried to do was, I really tried to almost like copy and paste the job description into my CV, but saying it in my own words and using my experiences and my skills from my internships and from my education, to highlight that, okay, I can do what you are saying that you want me to be doing in the job description, right? So as you can see here in my CV, I specifically have sections that are clear, and I try to make it very simple to say, okay, summary, in a very few sentences, who am I and what am I bringing to the table? Because this is why hiring managers and recruiters are hiring. What is it that you can do for the company? About you, yes, they're interested, but they really want to know, can you do the job? And what is it that you've done before? So my biggest problem was, let me just give a little bit of context, was experience, which I think is common for most people, especially international students, because sometimes you are now doing your master's after you have probably stayed at home for quite some time because you didn't have a job because of our economic situations, or maybe your experience is not really relevant to the current environment. So it's very difficult to say, okay, how can I make my experience really align with this job or how can I explain the gap in my CV. I've talked about this in my previous videos, that I have a gap personally in my CV where I gave birth and COVID hit and everything. So I have like a 2-year gap. And in one of the interviews that I had at a very large company, they asked me, why do I have a gap in my CV? And I had to explain it. So if you can find ways to like somehow in one sentence explain the gap, if you have a gap in your CV, that would also be good. And then you have professional experience. Make sure you just highlight 3 or 4 points of what exactly you did for that particular experience that you're highlighting. And it's important that you put experience that aligns with the job that you're applying for. So sometimes the problem is, okay, the particular experience that I have that does not align whatsoever with the job that I'm applying for. And what someone told me is that it will always somehow apply. And this is where you use tools like ChatGPT, DeepSeek, Claudia, all these AIs. So what you do is you really explain to it your situation, to say, okay, I worked as a cleaner and I cleaned at this particular place, what, but I'm applying for a job of project manager. What skill, how can I make this line? It will give you a good point to say, okay, by cleaning and everything, you learned to manage your time, you learned to manage your skills, and it gives you points that are relevant. So this is something that I also did. ChatGPT really came in handy, not to write the CV for me, but to help me to actually put out the words exactly and not run out of things to write. Okay, so that's what I did. And then also because I had then decided to start a YouTube channel. This is something that I wrote. I just started to do a few videos. So then for hobbies, I also said, oh, I have a YouTube channel. And then I also have a website where I simplify sustainability. This is something that I started during my master's as part of our portfolios. So I also put that as my hobby to say, sometimes I also simplify issues around sustainability on my website. It somehow shows that you are proactive. So on hobbies, be strategic. Of course, it's nice to say, oh, I like hiking and I like cooking, but it's also nice to somehow put in those hobbies that show that you are proactive, that somehow have a relationship to what you're applying for, so that in the event that the job you're applying for, they can decide to say, oh, okay, Lina, can you be in charge of writing of content creation or writing blogs for us? They can say, oh, but you do that as a hobby, so you can also help us. Something that will make you useful. Your CV, you're trying to say, okay, I am useful in this way. This is what I have done before, and this is what I'm capable of doing. And you are trying to do that in probably 1 page or 2 pages if you've got like a lot of experience. But usually just try to keep it very short. And because of this ATS tracking system now, you have to make sure that you hit the right words so that your CV is picked. It's unfair, but this is what's happening and this is what AI is doing. So, for example, in my CV, I know right now the sustainability environment is around frameworks. So you have to put in a word that says framework, and you have to put in a certain framework, in there. And if you are applying for a job that has to do with coding and anything like that, words like Python and all these types of codes, they have to be there. Those are going to be the keywords. And even to repeat the title of the role, that is also a keyword. I'm not a recruiter, I'm not an expert at this, but this is what I felt also contributed to my CV being picked and to my chances of being interviewed increasing. And then the other thing is your cover letter. Of course, now everyone is using AI and they know this, that you are writing your cover letter using ChatGPT. And if you say, oh, I'm just writing mine originally, I'm not using ChatGPT, good for you, but you may be missing out on chances of making it flawless and making it, to the point. But what I can tell you is try and make it very personal, so that when the reader reads, it's like they are getting to know you, not just to know every other person who says, oh, I am a well-seasoned professional, So what you will do is, after having done your CV, after having read the requirements of the job, and of course you've told ChatGPT that you are applying for this job, you have to give ChatGPT context of who you are. Tricky, I know. We're telling AI everything, but it already knows. So you give it a story, an incident, a certain part of your life, I think, to say you grew up like this, you've always had a passion for this, that one incident, something like this happened, and it discouraged you, but this is how you came out of it, and you once worked for a difficult boss, something like that, that is particularly special to you, that will define you, that will make you stand out, or something very specific in your academic journey, to say you particularly loved a certain course called environmental politics, and so you had a field work at Vietnam, something that is very specific to you, and you tell ChatGPT that. I like to use ChatGPT on my phone, because then I get to record, because I always feel like I speak better than I write. So when I record, I tell it everything that I want to write in my cover letter, and I tell it to synthesize it nicely and make it into just 300 words, ensuring that the keywords from the job description are also coming out, in as much as my story is also coming out. I tell it to make it very personal and to use it a tone that I would use, because I'm always using it for a lot of things, so by now it kind of knows my tone. Yeah, so that is about it for a CV. If you want for a cover letter, if you want a sample for one of my cover letters, you can email me. I think my email is there in my page, or you can just write it in the comments, and I'll send you one of the cover letters that I used. And the next thing, language. I should have talked about this in the very first video. If you are an international student and you are living in a country where the local language is not the language that you speak, or you don't know the local language, please really do try to learn the language, because you can always write in your CV that I know A1, or I'm currently enrolled, or something like that. It shows that you're willing to learn the language, you're willing to really integrate. And if you watched my videos long back, this is something that I encouraged someone to do. The moment you get into a country, if you have time, try to learn the language, slowly and surely, even if you're not fluent in it, but the fact that you're putting an effort is also good. And then the next thing is, now you are getting the interviews, so you have to prepare for interviews. Like I said, I got 7 interviews. I got 2 interviews at 2 of the big 4s, and then another one at a very big company in real estate, and another one at a very big automotive company. I'm not mentioning the companies because I never got the jobs. But then I got the interviews. It was a very good experience. And I also got with 2 consultancy companies, and another one was like government. Yeah. And then an academic institution. Yes. So it was interesting, that my CV got picked, and I had to prepare for the interviews. After having not been interviewed for like 2 years, I now had to interview. And the first thing that I did was, okay, where do I begin? YouTube. I came right here on this platform, and there's this guy called, I forgot his first name, but the page is called Career Vids. If you're looking for a job and you do not follow this page, I'm not promoting it, but this page helped me so much that I got into the 2nd and 3rd rounds of interviews. The reason why I got rejected for most jobs was because of the issue to do with my age and the visa. So when you have a search-year visa and you get a job, the company is supposed to apply for a work permit for you. And for them to apply for a work permit for you, they have to give you a certain salary. You have to be in a certain salary range based on your age. And I am 30 years old, so that means I'm expensive to pay. I am a 30-year-old who doesn't have as much experience as a 30-year-old in Europe. So that means if I had to apply for jobs that gave me this salary range they had to give me, I had to apply for senior positions, of which I don't have enough experience for senior positions. So they would say, okay, you are good, but you'll have to apply for junior. This is a junior position. That means we're not going to be giving you money that is enough for us to apply for a permit for you. So that was a glitch there. If you're 30 and you don't really have experience, brace yourself. But it doesn't mean that it's not possible. It is very much possible. Some companies are willing to go around this, to explain it to the authorities, and to even increase your salary so that you get your permit. So don't despair. But that was the main reason why I then got rejections, usually like in the final round, or even after the very first interview. They ask, oh, so do you have a visa? And you say, I have a work search, and they'll be like, okay, but this is the problem. So yeah, but I am quite confident that career vids really helped me with my interviews, especially the general questions like, tell us about yourself. I got tips on answering this question, and this is something that you should be practicing. You have to master how to talk about yourself in an interview without even having hiccups, without thinking about it. I mastered this one because of this YouTube videos that I watched, and I only watched YouTube videos from that channel. The guy is so good, and now he's got over 1 million subscribers and all. And so it's really helpful. I also used a lot of TikTok, just go on TikTok and say, preparing for my first interview, for my second interview. You have a lot of people. There's this lady called Amy also. She's an interview coach. You get to watch how to answer these general and basic questions. And then to answer the technical questions for your field, of course, you have to then practice. And this usually happens in the second round of interviews. In the first round of interviews, they're just asking you about yourself, about your work experience, about everything that is on your CV. So make sure that you really know everything that is on your CV. You are really confident of yourself, and you are really encouraging yourself, that you can do it, because sometimes you get into environments that you feel like, oh my God, imposter syndrome hits you there. You get in, you're like, am I worthy of this job? And this really affects your confidence. So yeah, and then after I got all these interviews, rejections started coming in. I've actually documented rejections from the interviews, and also from companies that I just applied for and they just rejected me like for no reason. Yeah, I have a folder in my laptop that I called Blessed and Miraculous Jobs, because like I said in my previous videos, I am a Jesus girl, and I am a woman who believes so much in faith more than anything else. So I said the job that I'm going to be getting is going to be a miraculous one, and it is going to be a blessed job. So I named my folder, when I started, I named it that. And yeah, so I was documenting everything. When I apply for a job, I would keep the CV, and I would also keep the cover letter. And if I get a rejection, I would also document the rejection. If I get an interview, I would also document the interview, because also this is important not only for you to track and see, how much you've come and how many applications you've done. I'm not sure how many applications I made. There are a lot. But it's also important, like here in Belgium, because you register that you are a job seeker. So here and there, I think they will come and see if you're really putting an effort to apply for a job, and also when you have to seek out for help from them. This is something that I'll talk about in the final part of this job search diaries, part 3, to say, okay, where, in the event that you've tried everything in your capacity, because this was month 2 and month 3 of my job search for me that I'm talking about in this video. So I had fine-tuned my CVs, going for my interviews, practicing for my interviews like the exams, rewriting my cover letters, fine-tuning them, and everything. And yeah, I was getting the rejections, and after getting the rejections, for most companies, especially the ones that I had interviewed with, I would then specifically ask for a feedback. This takes a lot of courage, but I would just say, I really want to know why I was rejected. This is why sometimes I understood that it was because of visa and my experience and all that. So some of them were really honest enough, and that helped, because then in some interviews I would already say it up front, that this is where I stand, this is my situation. And of course you assess the situation to see if you can already say it or not. And one particular company, their feedback to me was, my sustainability is not very much grounded in business. So this is what was lacking. And it was very helpful, because it helped me when I did another interview. I somehow researched a lot on that. So yeah, and how I took rejection. Some days, for some specific interviews, I would cry, because I would think, oh my God, I did my best, and this was it. I gave it my best. I gave it my best shot. I was supposed to get this, and some of these issues are beyond me. So what should I do? So yeah, I would cry, but then I would quickly pick myself up and say, you know what? Just because this failed doesn't make me a failure. I'm not a failure. I'm not the only one who's applying for a job. I'm not the only one in this space. This is happening to a lot of other people who've got like 10 years experience, who have worked in very good jobs. So eventually, something is going to come up. And like I said, and like I keep saying, scripture kept me going. When I started the year, I had Ephesians 3:20 on my wall everywhere. I said, the Lord is going to do exceedingly abundantly above that which I can imagine or ever ask for. So I kept saying to myself, whatever no that I am getting, it means God is going to do a bigger and a greater yes. And I found strength in that. I found strength in Jeremiah to say, the Lord says, for I know the plans that I have for you. And these plans are not to harm you, but to prosper you. So if I'm hurting, this is not God's plan. God's plan is going to prosper me. God's plan is going to be an expected end. In the fullness of time, everything is going to be beautiful. So if it is not yet beautiful, it is not yet the end. So I keep waiting, and I keep pushing. I keep asking for feedback. I keep bettering my CVs, and I keep distracting myself with this YouTube video, with doing other things. I also started running. Now I have a running partner, and it's going well. So I started running with her 3 times a week, like in the evening, and this really helps. It puts things on your plate, things to look forward to. And also I kept going out with friends whenever we had time, and just telling myself that I'm not going to be jobless forever. And what's the worst that could happen? This is my go-to. What's the worst that can happen? Going back to my country, it's not the worst. It's not like I live under a bridge where I have a house. My family is there. Something good will also come out of that, and I can also go to another country, because the visa issue is the most stressful if you're an international student, because you're like, okay, my visa is gonna end and I don't have a job. But otherwise, if you're looking for a job and you don't have visa issues, then you're like, okay, eventually I'll find the job. But if you're on a visa, you're like, okay, now I have 6 months left. So it's really stressful. So I hope that this session was soothing for you, and you are going to look at the video channel that I said look at if you have interviews coming up. All the best. If you got the first interview and the second interview, you surely get it. And if you need any help with someone who can look at your CV, I'm not an expert, but I can always also give my eye. I also used to give my friends to look at my CVs and my cover letters. That really helped. And don't forget to look up the people that are going to interview you on LinkedIn, and don't forget to also do your research of the company that is interviewing you. Look at their objectives, their company structure, their goals. What is it that they stand for, and what is it exactly that they do? Because this is something they also ask you, and you must make sure that your vision and your goals align with their goals. This also increases your chances. So yeah, until the next part, the final part, part 3 of my job search, where I talk about the 5th and the 6th month, re-strategizing after the rejections and getting interviews that were almost like hitting a dead end. How did I get up and what did I do? So thank you so much for watching. And before you finish watching, please do hit the subscribe button if you're watching and you haven't subscribed, and click the notification button if you say I am subscribed but I never see your videos when they come up, because this will help you be notified of whenever I put up a video. And until next time, thank you and stay safe.